With us now, Republican strategist Rina Shah, also with us, CNN political commentator, former Biden White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield. And I would like to say we have shown enormous restraint so far in this broadcast. It's 8:39 a.m., and I don't think we've mentioned the Veep stakes once. I'm ending that restraint right now. They just mentioned it right there, but it took a long time. And Kate, I want to play some sound for you because the contenders were out this weekend, including one who hasn't received quite as much attention, and that's Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who went on Fox where he's very comfortable, and he went on the attack. Listen.
People think that crime is up when crime is down under Joe Biden and crime was up under Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how often that gets reported on this network, so if you're watching this at home, do yourself a favor and look up the data.
Well, we invite that.
Great.
So, okay, two-part question here. Number one, do you think there is any realistic shot for Pete Buttigieg, who doesn't really bring a state necessarily with him? And two, the way he goes about that, the attack rather than defend there, what does that represent in terms of what might be a strategy for the Harris campaign going forward?
Yeah, well, I think there's absolutely a possibility for Secretary Pete, because here's the thing about the VP conversation. Everybody wants to game out the X's and O's of, who can bring what state and what constituency. And obviously the political calculation is part of the discussion. Of course it is. But ultimately the choice is going to be, who is the person that VP Harris feels has the best connection with, trusts, would have as a governing partner, would have as a reliable, campaign partner, somebody who's going to be able to go out and make the case in an effective and reliable way, which Secretary Pete obviously can. So sometimes I think that the kind of calculation around who has the best elector, who adds the most, electoral benefit, is a little overplayed relative to what's actually happening inside the campaign. In terms of discussions about who she picks. So I think people should remember that. And for that reason, obviously VP Harris has worked with Secretary Buttigieg in the administration. And of course, as we've all seen many times and just saw yesterday, he's a terrific communicator. In terms of his response there, I mean, it was textbook. It was excellent. He, one thing that he's so great at is, he's always level-headed. He's always calm. He goes back on offense without seeming like he's flustered. And I think that is absolutely what Vice President Harris is going to do over the course of this next 3.5 months, taking it to Trump. She has, all the reason in the world to be on the offensive and to be aggressive. We've seen her campaign kind of put this race in the freedom, versus wanting to take away your freedoms frame, which I think is terrific and resonates with people. And so I think she has every opportunity to be aggressive over this next 3.5 months.
Rita, we just had that graphic of the 6 possible VP picks up there. It's got to be so tempting, and we can put it back up again if you're in the Harris campaign, looking at that, being, geez, Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania is so important. Mark Kelly, Arizona is so important. And then to a lesser extent, Cooper in North Carolina, and then Tim Walz. But that Shapiro and Kelly thing, I mean, could you resist the temptation of picking people who may be very good on paper, but also come from a key state?
Well, look at history. The VP pick doesn't need to come from a swing state or a state that's in play or important for the VP pick to be successful, for the ticket to be successful. Look at Paul Ryan when he joined Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan of Wisconsin. Look at Tim Kaine when he joined Hillary Clinton from Virginia. So I'm just saying, it doesn't need to be from this all-important state to be successful. And history tells us that. But as a practical matter, look, I would have loved an all-woman ticket. It does need to be somebody who is not just a male, and I don't even know that it needs to be a white male, but somebody that's got this broader appeal. Shapiro's definitely turned some Republican heads. You see a lot of center-right types say, this is a governor I actually like. And then for Kelly, of course, I mean, we can't discount the fact that he's so well liked in Arizona. The Sun Belt is a place that Democrats need to do better in. So when we look at the numbers, the Veep stakes gets a little, for me, a little sort of, how can I put it, boring. I think Minnesota is exciting because Republicans in Minnesota I've known have always been very independently minded, very purple in ways. And I think Tim Walz is turning a lot of heads with Gen Z and millennials.
Yeah.
He speaks in a practical manner. He's somebody that looks like maybe he might be one thing, but then you peel back the cover and you get a whole lot of what you may like. And I'm talking about you meeting independent voters, center-right people who could come and join that Democrat coalition and help out like they did in 2020.
Man, you've never been a political reporter if you think the Veep stakes is boring. I've spent, decades of my life digging and reporting on this, and you're suggesting it's all for naught. But be that as it may. In terms of,
I say that because I would have liked a woman.
I got it. I'm just kidding.
I would have liked a woman.
Let's talk about vice presidential nominees here. And I will say one thing that Paul Ryan and Tim Kaine both have in common: they lost. So maybe you do want to go for a state there. I want to talk about Senator J.D. Vance, because the Democrats, in this bit of oppo that's had legs, uncovered this interview from 2021 where he talked about then Senator, or I guess she was Vice President Kamala Harris and others as being childless cat ladies and maybe look at things differently because they don't have children. Well, Vance last night, Kate, tried to clean that up a little bit on TV. Listen to what he said.
I do think that being a parent actually has a profound effect on somebody's perspective, and we should honor and respect that. But there are a whole host of people who don't have children for a whole host of reasons, and they certainly are great people who can participate fully in the life of this country. And that's not what I said, Trey. If you look at what the left has done, they have radically taken this out of context and, in fact, aggressively lied about what I've said.
There is the old adage, if you're explaining, you're losing, Kate. But I guess my question is, does this have legs beyond this going forward?
His position on this? Yeah, I think
this
it does.
issue, this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it absolutely does for a few reasons. I mean, first of all, this is now, I think, his second or maybe even third, but we'll charitably say his second effort to clean this up. I mean, the first time he essentially doubled down on what he had said about women and apologized to the cats that he had insulted in the original clip. So, voters have seen over the last now almost week, they've seen him double down on this and really embrace it. So tough to now come out and say, oh, well, that wasn't really what I meant. But even in some ways, even more importantly, I think it will continue to have legs because it reinforces a broader problem that the Republican ticket has in being anti-woman. I mean, their position on choice, the fact that they believe that, they should insert themselves in between women and their doctors in making healthcare decisions, the fact that they're, supportive of restricting birth control and IVF. I mean, they have a problem with women in this race, particularly suburban moderate women who have supported Democrats in the wake of the Dobbs decision. And so I think, everything that J.D. Vance does that continues to remind people how much the Republican ticket rejects the idea that women should be able to live their lives the way they want to live them is going to be a problem for them. Absolutely.
Kate Bedingfield, Rina Shah, thanks to both of you. Great discussion this morning. Really appreciate your time.